do some ironing. Pressing your seams might be one of the most annoying things you have to do in the sewing room, because you have to stop sewing, to press your seam, to go on with your sewing. But I've realized it's really necessary. It's one of the most important things, because your seams look really neat when you go on with your sewing. So I'm going to make some cushions, some pressing cushions, to make my life easier in here. Let me know down in the comments what other things you use for pressing, or what other accessories you cannot live without for your ironing, because maybe we all need it and we haven't realized. I don't have an ironing board in here because I don't think I have too much room left for another thing to put on display, and I do my ironing here on the cutting table, which I think it's quite comfortable, quite convenient, because it's huge and I can work really comfortable. But I think the accessories are going to make the difference. Of course, when I thought about making them, I went straight online to have a look at the different shapes there are, and there is a ham, an arm, and one shaped like a breast. So I don't think this last one I'll be using a lot, but because I'm going to make them, I thought about making them 3. And the measurements are almost the same. If in one shop the ham measures 25 by 15 centimeters, in another one it measures 23 by the 15, so it doesn't really matter. It's not something I think that affects the cushion at all. And one thing that really shocked me a little bit, caught me by surprise, is that they are filled in with wood dust, which was surprising. Apparently, well, some people fill them in with little scraps of material they have left. They cut them really thin and they put it in there. And it's useful, but apparently with the wood dust is better because it becomes like a block and you can really press hard and it won't change the shape. So let's see how we do it. Materials I'll be using, I'm going to use the French curves to trace them. If you don't have them, it's not really necessary. If you don't have them, you can do it by hand, slowly. And I'm going to be tracing them in paper first, because now that I'm making them, I want to keep the patterns. And of course, I'll be using some white canvas, like cotton. This one is from IKEA, it's really cheap. But I don't know, you see, I don't know if it's too resistant, so I might be choosing double layer. And of course, the wood dust. The cushions are sewn on the inside. We sew the cushion, we push it right sides out, we fill it in, and the last stitches go by hand. But because it has a shape, we have to give this height on the sides. For example, if the arm has 35 centimeters long, 10 centimeters wide, and 6 height, this height, we're going to add it to the wider bit. So then once we fill it in, it grows, sort of, and the seam is right in the middle. For the arm, I had decided 40 centimeters long, then I changed it to 35, but I went back to the 40 centimeters because I think it's much, I don't know, it's better. And of course, we have to leave all the height we're going to give it around it, those 6 centimeters. So this is 40 by 16, no? Yes, 16 centimeters. For the cup one, I'm going to trace the base first, and I need a rectangle of 15 by 10 centimeters. Once traced, I'm going to measure half the contour because this is going to be the base of the top bit. It is 21.5 centimeters, so I'm going to trace that for my base and 10 centimeters right in the middle. And to cut it, the best way is to just fold it so you have a very symmetrical cup. And the ham I'm going to make quite big as well. I'm going to trace it, I want it 30 by 20 centimeters and 12 height. It could be 10 as well, it doesn't really matter, I think. And of course those 12 I'm going to divide, and I'm going to leave 6 all around it. So first I'm going to trace this rectangle, and then try to trace it if you have the French curves, and if not, by hand it will be perfectly fine. And of course fold in so you have a very symmetrical ham, like this one. Now that I have my patterns, I'm going to trace it on my fabric. It's a very thin material. I don't think the Buddhas will come through, but I'm going to trace it double. And now with all my panels cut, I'm going to press them. I don't know if it's important or not right now in the beginning, but just in case, because maybe then we pin stuff together and we sew everything and then there's a wrinkle or something, so let's iron them just in case. And now I can pin them. Now that I have all my pins in, I'm going to the machine. I have it threaded in white with a medium weight needle, and I'm going to sew at 1 centimeter from the edge, so later I don't have any accidents when pressing if I sew right on the edge. Let's do some seam allowance, and I'm going to leave a 3 gap open so I can pull it right size out and then fill it in. And to sew the little one, because it's 3 different pieces, I'm going to sew first the one that the shape that goes on top and then at the base. Once I had everything sewn together, one thing I did was to cut some triangles of material, so once I pull it right size out, this seam doesn't wrinkle and look weird from the outside. I don't think it does because it's going to be filled in, but just in case. So now let's pull it right size out. To put stuff right size out, the best thing you can do is to have a stick around. In this case, violence is completely justified. And now that the cushions are ready, I'm going to fill them up with wood dust. I have a tray to just in case I spill everything, although it's not very big, is it? Despite being really careful, I have wood dust everywhere. So now that this is really filled, I'm going to put a pin on the little gap that's open, so we don't have more accidents. and I can then go on with the other two. I'm making such a mess. Even though I have a tray and everything, there's wood dust everywhere. And one thing I'm... No! See? See? One thing I'm trying is to press so it's a bit tighter. In the end, I'm not using this because it gets stuck, because sometimes there are some bits that are a bit bigger. So I went back to the original little paper thing, and I'm holding it as well as holding the cushion and shaking so the wood dust goes in. And now that it's quite full, I'm going to put some pins and shake it and shape it to see if it's okay, and go on with the other one. It's tight. So I think it's really well, so really good. So with the third one, which I left, it has the hole on the most difficult place. So let's see how we manage. Same thing, let's put some pins in. And to close the openings they have, I'm going to use an upholstery needle, which is really comfortable because it gives you angles when you don't have any to sew. So I'll be doing an invisible seam, which will be to go from your first point where you start sewing, then cross opposite to the other side, and instead of going back, go down on that side, and then cross and go down and cross and go down. So this little ladder, when you pull the thread, when you finish, it will disappear inside the seam. And these are the cushions, they look really good. When I started looking up information about this, I was quite surprised about the fact that you fill them in with wood dust. And it is quite logical because they are sturdy and thick and tight, so you can press on them. So it's really good. That's the difference, I guess, with the ones you filled in with scraps of materials you have left. They will work, but it won't be as good. I used this material, this cotton, because I had it and because I thought it was a good option, being light, so you don't have prints that, or ink that might stain your garments. But maybe there's a better option. Let me know that in the comments, because this is the first one I make, but there's always room for improvement. I think they're going to be really useful for pressing and giving shape to garments. And let me know then in the comments anyways if you have any other pressing accessories you can't live without. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel a lot, and that way you don't miss anything. Although I'm going to leave you 2 links to essentials in the sewing room and tips from the subscribers, which were really good. Bye.